Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Seco Sandlot. We have three very special guests joining the podcast today. They were supposed to play this season for the Arroyo Seco Saints, but unfortunately, COVID had other plans. I'd like to welcome RJ, Dominic, and Casey. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well, man. Doing well.
You guys keeping busy? I know it's horrible with COVID and everything, man. It's such a bummer, you know. I'm sure we're all outgoing people, and to get struck with this, it's just such a letdown. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering what drew you guys into the organization, and were you guys excited to play this season? I know it's kind of hard to talk about something that didn't happen, but just reflecting on something that could have. I know that you guys were probably looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, I played summer ball after my freshman year in Virginia, and it was fun, but it's also away from home for a while, and it was going to be nice to be able to live at home for a summer and actually play in a league close by for the first time. So I was looking forward to it.
What about you, Dominic?
For me, it's actually the opposite. So, being from upstate New York, I played summer ball not too far away from where I live, so I kind of stayed home. And obviously, Binghamton University, where I go, is pretty close to home as well. So, I was actually really looking forward to get the opportunity to head out west, play for the Saints. But obviously, with COVID and everything, it was quite the shock, I would say. I mean, I was really getting ready to go out there and play, but it happens.
Yeah, is that what drew you to the team? Was that it was on the West Coast side and you were looking to get
I mean, my our coach that's kind of in charge of placing guys around, he first and foremost said it was a good league, competitive, which is top of my list. And then it was also a good opportunity to maybe head out west and kind of switch it up. And I also had a couple teammates that are also in the CCL, so from Binghamton, so would have been a cool opportunity.
Casey, over to you.
Yeah, for me, I played with the Saints going into my freshman year of college, so that was obviously a great experience. And then the way it kind of worked was this in the fall, my junior college coach was Justin Toges, who works for the Saints, and he kind of just approached me and was like, do you want to play for the Saints again? And I was like, absolutely. Just because the experience the first time was so great. And I'm bummed that I couldn't play again.
Yeah, Casey, who is that? Was that a coach that approached you? Was it a ex GM, or who was that?
Yeah, he's a coach. He's a coach at my junior college, Glendale College, and he coached me when I was with the Saints the first time, and then I think he was supposed to coach this time as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure for college coaches, they want to get their guys some time during the off season to go to a place like this. And the Saints are a well-known program. They're kind of organization where they're not going to change a baseball player's swing. Like we've always talked about on the podcast, you guys are there to really just improve your game and do it at your own pace. And that's what's so special about this, is that you don't have a coach nagging you 24/7 about your swing or your pitching or your throw. It's about, really developing internally and connecting with other guys and building your network. And that's what I think makes it so special. And I'm hoping, are you guys going to return next year? I don't want to put you on the spot, but were you thinking about, coming back and joining?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's to be honest, for a lot of the program here, it's totally up to the coach, and we have a little say as far as like preferences go. But to be honest, it's mostly our pitching coach and our head coach are kind of just ballparking areas for us to go, and we hear from them and go from there.
What about you, Dominic?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, like you said, a little say. I mean, you can kind of like have a suggestion, kind of place like regional. You kind of want to go, have an idea, but other than that, it's really up to them.
Yeah, Casey.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's definitely a lot of unknowns going on right now, but especially with the upcoming year. But if I get the opportunity, I'd be more than happy to return.
Real quick, Zach, I'll let you go. I just have one more question, and then we can transition from into yours. I was wondering how you guys are, with all the unknowns that we're dealing with, how are you honestly approaching your game and staying in shape and doing all these other things? I think RJ said, the coaches are giving you guys locations that you could go hit or maybe go to parks and stuff like that. But is there anything you're doing on your own time to stay in shape or anything baseball related? You watching any of these MLB games, watching some of these guys? What's going on?
Yeah, so for me, I wasn't able, obviously, to do anything team affiliated during the break. But actually, a former player of yours, Matt Thomas, he also went to Harvard Westlake, and him, and one of his teammates at Harvard, we purchased a batting cage and pitching machine and some baseballs. And so we actually just they set it up in one of their backyards, and we went over there, and we were hitting pretty much every day, 5-6 times a week on days that we couldn't. And then I was lucky enough that one of my close friends, to the point where we were pretty much quarantining together, has a full home gym. So I was lucky enough to utilize my friends. I got lucky in that I had good friends. So I was over there 4 or 5 times a week, getting in lifts and actually training a little bit in jiu-jitsu to try and train some cardio and flexibility issues as well. So that's where I was over the break.
What about you?
Whole home gym? Jeez.
Goodness. What about you, Casey? Any full home gym? You got a treadmill that you've been using, or any weight?
I don't quite have a full home gym, but we got some stuff around the house that we do. We ended up picking up some of the weights that we had at our field. So I got that. Working with that a lot. But I also live across the street from our home field, so I've been going there just about every day just to get some swings in. I've been calling guys up to get some work in. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Are y'all working on the bands still?
Yeah, we use the bands.
Remember
yeah,
that?
we'll usually use that to throw.
Right. Yeah, I remember that from being a PO back in high school days. What about you, Dominic? How you working?
Same with me. Fortunately, I got a couple friends with home gyms.
Me too.
Yeah. So I've been very fortunate in that aspect. If it wasn't for that, I don't even know what I would do. It's a lot different in New York. I know in California that gyms were open for a little bit, but yeah, in New York, it's not a lot's been going on. Not a lot of progress as far as trying to open up these gyms. So just utilizing my friends, old past teammates, just trying to get them together, get them on the field, maybe get some live ABs in, getting our work in wherever we can. Just kind of doing the work while we wait mentality. Just trying to follow like that and just take every day like an opportunity to try to work on your game and just get a little better.
You're turning into a baseball coach yourself there, Dominic. I like it. Way to work on your game and stay motivated, man. That's great. All of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a tough one, and it's something that I take absolutely no pleasure in asking, but especially yesterday on the heels of the Big Ten and Pac-12 canceling their football season. What was everyone's initial response when you all found out that your baseball seasons were canceled back in March? Because obviously Arroyo Seco getting canceled this summer, it was a shock, but not – it was a shock when it happened, but at the same time, like when you look back at it, it felt like a long time coming, whereas all of a sudden out of nowhere you go from like 2 weeks in early March and they're still planning on having an NCAA tournament. And I know my school, Mizzou, we were playing non-con games in baseball and softball, and then all of a sudden everything changed. So Did your coaches sit you down? How did the school handle it? Did they support you guys? Did they just send you home? What happened?
So on my end, it's kind of a funny story as much as it is sad. But so obviously that day, March 11th, we're gearing up for our Duke UNC series, spring break. So we're the only people on campus. And we hear all of a sudden LSU and Kendall Rogers, they're tweeting like SEC's, what's going on. We hear Pac-12 started to cancel their season. And then something else happened, but we're like, come on. Like at that point, really no one was taking the virus that seriously. It hadn't reached so many parts of the world that the U.S. that we didn't know how serious it was at the time. And so we're sitting in our locker room ready to go to practice, ready to gear up. And we're like, oh my God, like, is this going to happen? No way this is going to happen. And then we go out to practice and get through all of our team defense and all of our individual defense. We start hitting BP. And after the second round of BP, our coach comes onto the field and just starts like, making sure, like yelling at everyone to stop what they're doing immediately, come back in the dugout. We're not allowed to be on the field anymore. We go back into the locker room, and he sadly announced that Duke had decided to be the first school in the ACC to cancel all spring sports before the ACC even announced it, and we weren't allowed to practice anymore. And right then, like as a sophomore, you obviously are sad in that, I mean, we were ranked 8th in the country. It was one of our best chances to go to the College World Series that Duke's ever had. But you don't think about yourself in that situation. You think about the seniors. You think about the grad students that weren't able to come back for another year of baseball. And your heart just goes out for them. And it was a really emotional time over the next 3 days while we were moving out and getting back, and just hoping the team's staying together. But yeah, kind of a funny story that we were all practicing, kind of taking it lightly, and then all of a sudden, like that, it was over. But yeah, that's our story.
Glad you brought up that point, RJ, because it must have been such a surreal feeling, first of all, just to have that announcement. And, you never really think it's going to happen. And then, at the same time, I'm glad you brought up the point that a lot of these players, especially the seniors, are getting stripped of a very pivotal year in their careers. And it's something that the NCAA should take into account with all of these major sports and with all of the sports in general, so that these athletes get a chance to, I don't want to say redeem, but more like just to make it so that way they can, get back to where they would have been. So that's a great point. What do you got, Casey?
Yeah, actually for JUCOs, it kind of worked a little differently just because we were a little behind everybody else. I mean, I remember with a Thursday practice, and that was when everybody started getting canceled. We heard Pac-12, ACC, even NCAA basketball was getting canceled. So we were going into that practice, and we were kind of just waiting for the inevitable. And we got through that practice. And even after the practice ended, we were at home, and we had a game the next day, and we were kind of just scrolling on Twitter all through the night, just like seeing what was going to happen, because we obviously we never wanted it to get canceled, but we felt like it was going to get canceled. And then I remember it was like around 9:00, and I saw a tweet from, I think it was like Golden West College, and they said, the CCCAA has decided to cancel all spring sports. So obviously we were devastated. But at a certain point, we were unfortunately knew it was going to happen. So yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, we were devastated.
That's that first step. They all do, man. What were you going to say, Zach?
Yeah, no, from and I guess from an outsider standpoint, obviously I'm not an athlete, but as someone that is pretty knee deep in sports journalism, sports, especially college sports in American society, it always felt like an unstoppable juggernaut of sorts. You never even crossed your mind what happens if something comes up big enough to cancel things. And all of a sudden, I mean, I think it was Rudy Gobert getting sick. before that Thunder Jazz game that really opened it up that, yeah, sports might be in trouble, but then it still didn't feel real the next day when the NCAA canceled the basketball tournaments, and then from there on out, just the dominoes fell. But I don't even know if I have the right words per se, because it's just like a terrible situation for everybody, whether it be athletes, people on the business side of things.
Yeah, business for sure. Yeah, on the revenue side, I mean, I can't imagine what some of these universities, might have to opt to because of this. A lot of schools like Baylor, their football program brings in a lot of revenue, not only for the school, but also for their baseball team and their baseball season. And I'm sure a lot of other schools are like that, like Alabama. I'm sure, spend a lot more on their football program than anything else, but I'm sure a lot of that revenue that's made from football is pouring into other sports and other academia. So it's going to be really unfortunate and really trying times for these colleges to find another way to try to make that revenue back. It's almost near impossible at that level, I would think. But Dominic, over to you. What do you got on the subject, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's right when you think that football is untouchable, you just see that guy canceling. It just continues to shock you, because you always thought that they'd maybe try to implement a plan, maybe just try to move forward, any type of plan really. And as we saw, they just ended up canceling it. So I mean, fortunately, BU actually doesn't have a football team, so we're fortunate in the sense that we don't really have a team where it's draining kind of the funds and kind of maybe taking out of kind of what we would be getting from a football team. So I guess we're somewhat fortunate in that aspect. But I mean, as far as these just every sport getting canceled, and like you said, sports hold a special place in people's lives that you wouldn't really imagine what it'd be like without them. So I mean, it's definitely just really, really weird time that we're living in nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. And in the next couple of months, we'll hopefully get back to some normal feeling
Fingers crossed.
in here and normalize the situation, because we're going to get, the NBA finals, MLB playoffs, and football will be back for the NFL. Hopefully, we don't know, but I think so many of these fans and players even are just so down right now because of everything going on. It's really hard times without the sport, and we need to have everything back because it's something.
Oh, I see, Charles. You're just going to disrespect the NHL like that? Okay.
Well, they're getting back
in playoffs.
Right. The NHL is going to be in full swing as well. So exactly, every sport. It's just such a weird time. I don't really think of all four major sports happening at once, but we're going to get a rare situation where that goes down. So something special did come out of this. It took a lot, and I don't know if it was worth it. And I think that in these kind of situations, when student athletes are having to make it through these times without having their sport, you guys have to go to a lot of other things. And back to the conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago with JT and Bryce, we were talking to them about college athletes getting paid and being able to survive some of these times. And, a lot of the student athletes, they have trouble paying for meals, and they're on such a tight schedule that sometimes they can't even get to a meal. That Bryce brought up that if you're playing a Sunday night baseball game away, you're not getting back till sometime 2:00 that morning, So I'm wondering if you guys view that student athletes should be paid, and how you believe you should be compensated if they do.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously this is the hot topic around college sports in general, and I'm not going to pretend like I have a be-all, end-all solution and I know all the nuances that go into most athletic programs running at a loss. But to me, I think it's very nuanced in the sense of it's hard to say this, but I believe some athletes should get paid and some shouldn't, because you look at if you look at like marketability aspects and capitalism, like in general, how it works in the real world is if you provide a product that's making money, you're going to get paid for that. And so I think those, at least at Duke, like JJ Redick was on part of my take the other day. They were asking him about like whether he believes he should have gotten paid in college. And he was one of the biggest athletes in the world, stayed there for 4 years. And you don't think of him as someone who necessarily like he was treated as a star on campus, and yet he was saying there's a lot of times he couldn't afford lunch, he couldn't afford dinner. And you don't imagine like Duke basketball players having that issue. And he said it really put into perspective when he saw his number 4 jersey in the Duke store, and I don't remember the exact number, but you got to think thousands and thousands of those jerseys were sold over his 4 years at about $7,500 each. And that's probably close to $500,000 that Duke made on just selling his jersey alone. And he got nothing of that. He's struggling to find meals. So people like that, top-tier athletes, I think should get paid, whether or not by the school or at least just like not losing their amateur ability, having a agent or a booster paying for a meal or just giving them money. If you just kind of open the markets, people say like, oh, it's gonna affect the way like some schools will become juggernauts. But the counter to that is like Alabama, Clemson in football. I mean, they've been in the finals the last 5 years. You already have those juggernauts. And in this case, you might actually upend the system and maybe create new juggernauts, but also create like, in a sense, a more fair playing field, because yes, it's hard to say that money should get bigger like contracts and better players. But in the case of football, like you'd have so many schools that have boosters and alumni that are wealthy and would be more inclined to give to the school if it meant their sports teams would be better. And there's actually more schools across the country, and you wouldn't just have a top 4, the same 8 schools competing for the 4 college football playoff spots every year. I feel like you'd have more turnover. But again, like monetarily wise, I don't know how schools can like pay athletes that don't bring a lot of money to the sport. And for that reason, it's super nuanced, and I don't know the final answer. Like I don't believe I deserve to get paid unless my jersey sells. But there's so many kids that take advantage of top tier facilities, and it's not like I'm making money for the school myself. So that's where I stand. I don't know. I know it's nuanced and there's a lot of opinions, but I'll let Casey and Dominic give it a go.
Yeah, Casey, what do you got?
I think when I talk about this, I like to play kind of both sides, because with everything that's involved with this conversation, there's always an action and a reaction. But a lot of people argue that that you're getting paid, your school is getting paid for when you go to this. If you're on a scholarship, that's your quote unquote salary. Because whether you're at 50%, 90%, whatever, your school is getting paid. But I think that when you look at the work that some of these athletes put in, and you realize that they're the only ones that aren't getting paid, I can understand why that's bothersome to some people, especially football players who are filling up the stadiums are being filled up with 90,000 people. You're telling me that some of that money can't go to the players. I totally understand that, but that'll lead to like a slippery slope of once football and basketball get paid, all of a sudden baseball wants to get paid. All of a sudden, sports that don't bring in as much revenue as football and basketball want to get paid, say like volleyball, stuff, things like that. So, like I said, for every action, there's going to be a reaction. Do I think that I deserve to get paid? Maybe, because I feel like I'm putting in enough work to deserve some compensation. But I also think that with the business model that college sports have, especially with the pandemic now, I don't know if it's totally possible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they're going to have the money now to do it. And they were all set, and now COVID hit, and now it's halting up, and really unfortunate. And I appreciate that you bring up the amateurism, RJ, as well. You know, that was a key thing for the NCAA, and with, you know, everything going on, I just think that they might resort back to that, you know, bogus rule of just like, oh, they're amateurs, let's keep them amateurs, let's not pay them. So
Yeah, if I used to just say one more quick thing, sorry, before Dominic goes, about that amateurism thing is amateurism was like a concept. Again, I think JJ Redick brought this up in the podcast, but amateurism was a concept dating back to like before live television and before these college sports were having multi-million-dollar television contracts. Like, that makes sense. The schools were not making money off college sports in 1930 when this concept was a thing, and when it was a thing for the Olympics as well. But times are changing, and I think we have to change with them.
Agreed. And I was just gonna say, Casey, you know what you said. I agree that you guys should get paid. You know, RJ, you said if you sales, that's when you should get paid. But I think if you're bringing in people to the stands and you're a kind of guy that's getting hits consistently lately, and people are coming to see you, that's revenue too. You know, if a fan buys a ticket to see you, that should be yours. I mean, it's kind of hard to track that, but I still think that should be some sort of monetary payment. And Dominic, I'll turn it over to you. What do you think on the payment situation?
I mean, as far as the amateurism goes, I feel like you officially lose your amateur card once you bring in that amount of revenue. Obviously, it's different in many different cases, different schools and athletes. But I mean, as far as, I don't get how they can just hide behind this amateurism card like they have been for so long, and it just seems like they're a go-to. I mean, it's just some of these guys, like you mentioned before, just the jersey revenues alone is just disgusting. Like the university just makes so much money and just so much revenue off of these guys, and it's just,
yeah.
And it's like, to go as far as saying like, oh, we should be paying them, giving all this money and stuff. Yes, but we should at least make sure they're fed and make sure they have their necessities to like be able to continue their career after they move on professionally, at least, and just have these resources where they can just get ready to compete and still compete at the highest level. So, I mean, I do agree that people are going to get mad that they are getting paid if they ever do. There's going to be definitely some issues with like equality. Other sports and teams are going to want to get in on it. So it'll cause some problems for sure. But I mean, like I said, I mean, you should at least be getting some sort of compensation for the work and effort, and you should at least be able to be fed. I mean, that's not right, you know?
It's not, man. And, you know, it's a full-time job if you think about it. That's what you guys are doing. Baseball is your job. You think about the college kids that are able to get internships in their field. This is pretty much your internship and your trial at your job. And that's something that you should be getting paid for, or something that should lead to a paying job in the future. So I think that the colleges should see that. It's your job, and you can't go out like these other kids and get internships and work on, say, advancing your business degree, whatever major you're in. So it's really unfortunate, man, and I feel for you for sure. It's a messed up situation.
I feel like I'm rubbing my hands together a little bit with this one, because this is a question I've been waiting to ask. Going off of what really Trevor Lawrence started it last week or over the weekend with the we want to play thing, and at first a lot of people just thought, yeah, of course, a bunch of athletes are bummed they're not going to get to play football. And then it was more or less revealed that Trevor Lawrence and soon after a whole bunch of other top-tier football players were looking to unionize. And what are your thoughts on college athletes, student athletes, unionizing in order to be able to maybe create a uniform system of policies and demands that have to be met, or especially if COVID isn't completely solved by the spring, maybe some sort of liability protection. I don't know. But do you guys feel that the NCAA does enough for you as is, or is there something they can do more? And if so, how do you suppose you and your fellow baseball players band together?
So I'm gonna be quick with this. I feel like I've been a little too lengthy on my previous ones, but I can't speak for other schools, obviously, but with Duke, I mean, they've been doing a great job as far as we have some of the top doctors in the world telling us what's safe and what's not safe. And as far as athletes go, like, we've had pretty strict guidelines on who we can see, how we can see them, maintaining safe social distancing, wearing a mask, isolating, quarantining, etc. To the point where I think it's pretty safe to play within our team. It's not going to look like college in the past as far as being able to hang out with whoever you want when you want it, but it's giving you an opportunity to play. And as far as what Trevor Lawrence said on the we want to play and the safety aspect of it, I think there's doctors that agree that there's a safe way to go about it. I know Dr. Cameron Wolf, he's been talking to us a lot. He's a top Duke doctor and infectious disease specialist who actually has been talking with ESPN and other people. He believes it can be done safely. And I think there is something to what Trevor Lawrence said about you don't have these kids playing football, especially like they go home to online school in possibly communities where COVID is more infectious and they can actually get it worse because people aren't taking it seriously at home as they would be on a college campus with regulated testing and procedures in place. So I think he does definitely have some merit to what he's saying.
All right, how about Casey?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, you see with the MLB, kind of going back to what RJ was saying, you see with the MLB things they're doing to protect players from getting the virus. I mean, it's not working fully, but it's doing the job for most teams. But as far as the union goes, Zach, I know you asked, do we think that the schools are doing enough for us? What RJ was saying about the meal money for JJ Redick, I think that kind of sums it up. I think that they could be doing more, but I think a union would be good. I guess I don't know how effective it would be compared to how effective unions are in pro sports, because like I said, the players are theoretically have the least say when it comes to the sport. So I think that a union, like, it's a good idea, but the question is, how effective would it be?
How many people?
And last but not least, Dominic.
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that too, just the effectiveness of it. I mean, I'd imagine that these colleges would want to try to at least put something in place. I mean, if you have all of basically your money makers getting into this this union, like you mentioned with like Trevor Lawrence, it kind of like raises some eyebrows. So you wonder if it would actually work, and maybe if, like, who knows if they're going to try to postpone it or if the season gets canceled. But I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting moving forward to see how and when they try to implement kind of like a union. And it depends how they go about it. I think if they do it right, they might be able to get some pull and just kind of work with these universities a little more. I mean, there always just seems to be this constant, like, love-hate relationship between players and their in the NCAA, really. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic with Trevor Lawrence taking that route. I commend him, and I hope that out of his positive, where terms of wrapping up, we want to end on a bit of a lighter note. I was wondering during this time how COVID has impacted your life outside of baseball. Are you stay busy? Any hobbies or things that you guys have picked up?
I couldn't really hear you. I think you were asking about.
Win?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Audio a little
Yeah,
bit.
audio's kind of going in and out.
I believe you were asking about hobbies we picked up and how COVID's impacted our life outside of baseball. Personally, obviously I was fortunate enough to be playing for the break, but it's impacted my life. Like for the first time in your life, in a sense, we've had a normal summer, normal kid summer, but we weren't able to like actually enjoy it with friends and do that stuff. So I actually wasn't able to see a lot of family over concerns of the virus. We were distancing and quarantining well. Wasn't able to hang out with a lot of close friends that I haven't seen in a while. And as far as hobbies, I mean, I got more into weightlifting and kind of picked up jujitsu with my friend, but I don't know how much I can actually continue that on campus, considering we're gonna go right back into hours and hours of baseball. But it was a fun summer, if not a weird one for sure.
Casey, over to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if there's any positive to take out of the situation, it's kind of, for me personally, I've been able to find myself like outside of baseball, because I think that's I think that most athletes like struggle with that at some point in their career. They start to think that like all they are is their sport. But yeah, for me, as far as I go, I've been, I made a gigantic list of like movies to watch. That's been huge for me. And yeah, like obviously I'm still getting after it in the cage with the weights, all day. But yeah, I think that this was for a lot of people, this could be a real test as far as, like what are you going to do about when baseball gets taken away, or any sport. I think it's you kind of have to find yourself outside of the sport from this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just having this talk the other day with my friend about the whole identity thing. It's crazy how it just playing this game and just being around the sports becomes a part of who you are, and for such a long time, like, you didn't even realize it. But I mean, the second it gets taken away from you, you're like, wow, now what? What else is there to it? But it's definitely been a cool process, just kind of see what life has been like without just kind of like just organized baseball, and just kind of finding yourself. But I mean, as far as just what I've been doing, I've just been trying to find ways to get out of the house. Early on in with this whole COVID thing and quarantining, it kind of got a little stir crazy inside of the house. So I just found ways to just get outside, get in nature. I've been picking up mountain biking a lot. It's a great workout. Stays in shape. I mean, I just try to run like you said, lifting weights more. I mean, just trying to really focus on my health. So when we do start up again, whenever that is, I mean, health isn't a problem, and you can go in healthy and just ready to go.
Definitely. And I think that it's great that you guys are staying busy. It's really important to keep motivated right now and stay on the grind. It keeps you out of staying down. And I find it so interesting, RJ and Casey, both went to Harvard Westlake. Were you looking forward real quick to coming back this year and playing together? Had you really talked before this at all, or what was the story there? RJ or Casey, you guys can answer. Did you guys talk at all before?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So with Casey being a year older than me, and me not actually making varsity until my junior year, we had really only played together for like solid year. I mean, we played a little bit on JV my freshman year, but he was back and forth between varsity and JV. So it was definitely going to be fun, like playing with an old teammate. But like I said, like we only really played a year together. It would have been nice to get another summer together. Unfortunately, that was taken away. But yeah.
Any last thoughts, guys, that you want to hit on? Anything that you're looking forward to about the Saints? Anything that we missed? Any added points? All right, I think we're good. Thank you, RJ. He's coming out from Duke University. Thank you, Casey. He's from UC Irvine. And thank you to Dominic. He went over, I believe that's Binghamton University, correct?
Yep, Binghamton. Yep.
Binghamton, thank you. I knew I was pronouncing that right. Forgot that.
Girls, you know I'm an East Coast guy too. I'm gonna get on you for
that. Yeah, Binghamton. That's what it is.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and don't forget about the Royal Seco Saints. Hopefully, we'll see you guys back next summer.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Take care.
All right.